We've been making videos for about 7 years now, but this is the first and probably the only one that we're somewhat afraid to make. And I'll explain to you why. Death and funerals. It's a topic that's very difficult to talk about, especially for us Filipinos and our culture. It's not something you can even joke about, and if you did, you're probably gonna get scolded by your parents. And that's the reason why no one wants to talk about it, much less make videos about it. In fact, I don't think you're gonna find big YouTube creators making content about this one. But it is a topic that's important. And that's why we want to break the taboo surrounding it. So if you're a little squeamish or scared of this topic, we'd understand if you want to click away. But if you want to learn more, we're going to reveal to you the buried conversations about funeral homes. But why? Why is attempting to talk about death in general frowned upon? We can't really answer the why. Kasi ang daming mga pamahiin, ang daming mga beliefs. Hindi mo pwede tignan yung patay, hindi ka pwedeng sumalubong, hindi ka pwedeng umuwi or magpaalam ng basta-basta. Madaming hindi pwede. And that's probably one of the reasons why you feel like hindi pwedeng pag-usapan ito. So that's why we reached out to Aeternitas Chapels and Columbarium in Commonwealth Avenue, because we needed experts who knew the ins and outs of the industry. Luckily, they said yes, and we were able to visit their columbarium, which gave us a better understanding of the process. When we got there, I was surprised. Aeternitas wasn't your usual columbarium. It was like a hotel. Do you see this place? It even has a waterfall. Are you kidding me?
Hi, Jewel. How are you?
This is Ed. He's currently the sales director for Aeternitas. He knows a lot about what happens in death care and has agreed to tell us the whole process.
To introduce you to our audience, of course, this is Sir Ed, and Sir Eddie, and he is the sales director for Aeternitas.
That's right. That's right.
And he also knows the ins and outs of the processes of what happens after our loved ones passes away.
Yeah.
So that being said, though, what is the process? Because we don't know. We don't talk about it.
Ed explained that death care has evolved and that for their company, it was important that they evolved as well. Gone were the dark, dingy, and depressing kinds of funeral homes. Now it's more like a hotel, more like a home, as it should be.
Well, the process is actually a long process. It's kind of tedious, actually. You know, from when the patient passes on in the hospital. You know, from the room, then they go down to the morgue. And then all the paperwork, by the way, I forgot, the paperwork is a lot.
While Ed was discussing the steps, we discovered that there are two ways. There are two routes that can happen when someone passes away. The first route is the regular route, and that is when nothing is planned or pre-planned.
From there, you know, the process is either they have a place already or they're still going to choose one.
Okay. Yeah.
So that adds on to the stress.
Yeah, for sure.
So a lot of people have thought ahead and planned for the future, right?
Yeah.
So they have an easier time. But for those who did not plan for the future, would have to go through this quite a tiring, actually. It's tiring and it's stressful and stuff like that.
So let's say your loved one has passed away at the hospital. Your step one would be to acquire a death certificate. And you need to get this at the city hall. And then step two, you need to look for and contact a funeral home of your choice. And then from there, you need to arrange the transfer of the body from the hospital morgue to the preparation room of your chosen funeral home. That means you have to arrange the ambulance transfer yourself. So clearly, there's a lot of stress and decision making at this point, and all of this is within a very short amount of time. And then you have to meet with the funeral director, wherein you have to choose or decide if you want a cremation or a burial. And then you have to pick a chapel, and before you can even go to the final resting place, you have to acquire and secure your transfer permit. So clearly, there's a lot of paperwork and a lot of stress involved. And again, all of this while you're grieving. So essentially, after one passes away from the hospital, you again need to acquire a death certificate from the city hall, and then you call Aeternitas, for example, and they are going to take care of the rest. So imagine, all those steps gone.
Yeah, and you know what? Nobody really talks about it.
Yeah.
Nobody talks
People
until
just
it
talk
happens. Until it happens to you, right?
Yeah, people just are probably aware of the grief. Obviously, you're prepared for the loss, but you're not
Right.
prepared for the stress.
Right. Right.
Okay.
And that's one thing that people should really think about is how to go and plan for the future.
While hearing this, and what is made obvious, is that because no one wants to talk about funerals, people don't know that they'll be facing a lot of stress if they go into it unprepared. And again, this is on top of all of the grief that you'll be experiencing when the time does come. And remember, I don't know about other cultures, but with Filipinos, we have that bahala na attitude, which roughly translates to whatever happens, happens, which is very fatalistic. So get this. Funeral homes are modernizing, and newly built places like Aeternitas are leading the way. This modernization happened as the industry evolved. Modern funeral homes like Aeternitas invested heavily on architecture and interior design. Older funeral homes were based off of Victorian and classical architecture, which weren't terrible and served its intended purpose, but Aeternitas went into the more modern direction, with brighter and more uplifting spaces. I mean, guys, seriously. When was the last time that you saw a full-fledged waterfall feature in your funeral home? Those are usually reserved for hotels. Clearly, the ambience of this place has been drastically improved, from old and dark to bright and well lit. The chapel seats are now made out of plush sofas as opposed to the stiff and rigid wooden benches that you might have been used to. And these modern funeral homes now have amenities which you could not find in older funeral homes. So for example, Aeternitas has a bed for the family room at the back. And that's a big deal because that means there's actually a space for the family, the immediate family, to stay in. Usually sa iba, pantry lang kasi, right? Which is where you would store your food and other utensils for your guests, right? But there would be no place to sleep. And that's a big deal. Because in my personal experience before, for example, nung turn ko na ako na yung matutulog overnight because it was a close family who passed away. Wala akong matulugan except for the actual benches in the chapel itself. So the fact that Aeternitas actually has a bed in the family room is a big deal. And another thing that I was really surprised by is the fact that they have a butler service. Essentially, they'll be in charge of your mga pabili, kung may kailangan kayong pabili, and will also assist in making sure that certain processes are done faster and smoother for the family. And then they also have a business center for those people who might still be working during this time, which is unfortunate, but sometimes it's unavoidable. So it's nice that that's there. And Aeternitas even has wellness services for the bereaved family. So in case you needed a foot massage or something, they offer that as well. And these are things I totally didn't expect, which is great. Thank you to Aeternitas for letting us film in their columbarium and for guiding us through the process of what happens after our loved ones passes away. And if you want to get in touch with them, their contacts are on the screen as well as in the description down below. You can also look them up through Waze because they're easily searchable. And again, they are in Commonwealth Avenue, Quezon City. Easily searchable through Google Maps or Waze. Now, knowing all of this, it's very clear that times are changing and the death care industry is moving forward and modernizing with the help of architecture, interior design, and exemplary service to help offer the very best for the bereaved families. But now, say you've laid your loved ones to rest. What's next?
Remembering the dearly departed isn't just about holding funerals. It's about remembering them in our memories and in our hearts. I know I've shown you a lot of really nice features, but what matters here is that we have a place to gather and celebrate the life of our loved ones. And for those in the death care industry who show us empathy and allow us to have these pockets of peace or nooks of quiet where we can gather and stay connected with them. This might have been something that was previously a little difficult to talk about just because we didn't know how to approach it. But ultimately, it's something that we do need to talk about, and I'm glad we did. So thank you for sharing this conversation with us.
This is Julia. Thank you for watching till the end.